Hi everyone, I hope you're all doing great and enjoying spring so far if you're in the Northern Hemisphere like myself. Such a beautiful season. And today I want to continue and even finish the little budget recipe series I started a few weeks back by sharing two of our favorite wallet-friendly dinner recipes. There will be a rice bowl with sticky and spicy tofu as well as a cabbage salad, and I'll also be making a creamy red pepper pasta dish. But before we get into cooking, I want to thank Squarespace for sponsoring this video and tell you a little bit more about them. Squarespace is an all-in-one website builder with lots of great tools to make it easy to build a beautiful and well-functioning site without any previous knowledge about coding or website building. Personally, I've used Squarespace to create my online food photography portfolio, and I really like that it is so easy and intuitive to use. There are plenty of themes, font combinations and color combos on Squarespace to get you started, and there are themes for many different purposes, so it's great for everyone from business owners and e-commerce all the way to creatives and bloggers. So if you're thinking about creating a website for any purpose, check out squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch your site, go to squarespace.com/goodeatings for 10% off your first website or domain. Okay, so now let's get to cooking. And I thought that I'd take two dishes I think can be made to be more expensive, but use ingredients that shave off cost by simply changing some of those ingredients. So in this first dish, which is a rice bowl, one of our favorite easy and yummy weeknight meals that we make a lot, I use inexpensive ingredients like cabbage and carrot for the veggie section of the bowl. These types of vegetables are always cheap here in Sweden and make a great base in our diets when we try to cut costs. And this can of course translate into other types of vegetables depending on where you are around the world. And when there's a bit more money in the bank, it's easy to customize this type of meal by adding some of your favorite vegetables or toppings as add-ons. And the first thing I always do when I make this is put my rice on, and I'm using brown rice today, so let me show you how I like to cook it with great results. To serve 4 people, I usually use about 1.5 cups of dry brown rice. I like to place it in a sieve or a bowl and then clean it thoroughly with cold water until the water runs clean. Then I transfer it to a pot along with a pinch of salt, and of course you could season it in any other way you like, but for this I keep it simple. Then I add 2 times the amount of water as I added rice, so here I'm using 3 cups. Next I bring it to a boil, and once it's boiling I turn it down all the way to a simmer. I place the lid back on and I allow it to cook like this until all the water has been absorbed or evaporated. For brown rice this usually takes 45 minutes, just keep an eye on it and make sure to take it off the heat when all the water is gone. While the rice cooks, I'm going to prepare the salad component of this bowl, and I'm starting by slicing up 3 cups worth of cabbage. I'm using fresh spring cabbage here, which is a little lighter in texture, but any cabbage works great. Next I grab a carrot, and to julienne peel it I like to hold on to it with a fork like this, and then it's much easier to julienne peel without feeling like you might cut your finger. So I julienne about 2 medium carrots, and then I also slice up 1 red onion finely. These are the 3 vegetables that I'm serving in this bowl, and together they create a really nice harmony of crunch and a little bit of sweetness as well as spiciness from the onion. Then to brighten it all and give it a bit of tang, I add about 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. I also go in with 1 tablespoon of neutral tasting oil, and then I season it with salt to taste. I give it all a really good mix to coat the vegetables, and then I set it aside in the fridge while I finish the other components. Now for the last element in this bowl, I am making some sticky gochujang tofu. And gochujang, for those of you who are not familiar with it, is a Korean fermented red pepper paste. It is a little sweet and a little spicy, and I usually get it in my local Asian supermarket where they sell it at the best price. I do recognize this can be a specialty item though, depending on where you are in the world, and you can swap it for another spicy paste or sauce if you wish. Sambal oelek is a great substitute and something we use here in Sweden a lot, but maybe you have a different option where you are. Either way, I will start by prepping the sauce, which will become the glaze for the sticky tofu. Again, to serve about 4 people and coat about 400 grams of tofu, I'm using 3 tablespoons of the gochujang paste. So I add that to a bowl along with 2 tablespoons of soy sauce as well as 2 tablespoons of maple syrup for some added sweetness and helping the sauce become a glaze once it hits the pan. To balance this all out, I go in with 2 tablespoons of rice vinegar, which adds a little bit of tang, and I'm also adding 2 tablespoons of neutral tasting oil. Then I go ahead and peel and press 2 chunky garlic cloves into the bowl along with the other ingredients. You could also add fresh ginger here if you have it on hand. Then to bring it all together and make it the right consistency to make the glaze, I add in 2 tablespoons of water and mix it really well to combine. Once it's all homogeneous, I set it to the side and prepare my tofu. For this I use extra firm tofu, which has less liquid in it, and all I need to do is just pat it dry to remove any excess liquid. I cut my tofu block into about 1/2 inch wide cubes. This size is great because it will carry lots of flavor and still makes a nice bite size. Then to achieve a nice texture of the tofu and make the sauce stick well to the tofu cubes, I coat them in 1 tablespoon of cornstarch before frying them, which helps make a crispy surface. So I heat a skillet over medium heat and I add in about 1 to 2 tablespoons of oil that has a high smoke point like avocado or rapeseed. Once the oil is warm, I add in the tofu and fry them on each side until golden. The first side will take a little bit longer and then the next few sides will be much faster, so stay with them and keep flipping them. Finally, when you're satisfied and you feel like you've fried each side of each tofu cube, pour in the sauce and cook it down for a few minutes. You want to achieve this glossy look where all the sauce is adhering to the tofu, so make sure you coat all the cubes and just keep an eye on it to achieve this result. As soon as the rice is done and there's no water left in the pot, I serve it up into bowls along with the salad. I usually go half-half in the bowl and then top that with the sticky tofu. It might seem like there are many steps to achieving this dish, but they are really very simple and create a very satisfying result, so they're worth it. And it all comes together within the time it takes to cook brown rice, and you'll even have some downtime in there as well. Well, this dish has it all for me, except for maybe a sauce. If you know Swedish people, you know how much we love our sauces. But I could easily drizzle a little soy sauce or lemon juice over the rice, and I think that would satisfy my sauce needs. I just love the combination on this plate with the fragrant rice, the sticky and spicy tofu, and then the crunchy and tangy slaw. Each mouthful hits such a great spectrum of what I love about food with these types of dishes. I hope you will feel the same way if you try it. But now let's move on to my second offering of the day, which is a creamy red pepper pasta dish. So usually I use rather pricey cashews to make creamy whole food based pasta sauces, but sunflower seeds also work really well for this, at least when using a flavorful ingredient in combination like roasted bell peppers, which is what I'm going to do here, and they are much more affordable as well. When it comes to bell peppers, they are actually one of the foods that seem to have skyrocketed due to inflation here in Sweden. But I can find jarred roasted peppers at a great price in my local sort of world food market, and they are perfect for a sauce like this. The sauce itself is really very easy to make, which is great for weeknights. And to make our sunflower seeds a little more easy to work with, I will start by soaking them in hot water. For 4 servings of this sauce, I use 3/4 cup of sunflower seed, and I just cover them by about 2 centimeters of hot water. I set that aside for 15 minutes while I grab 2 slices of stale bread. I'm using this bread to make a crunchy topping for the pasta. I think it's called pangrattato in Italian, and it's a really yummy, savory addition with a little bit of texture to an otherwise quite just creamy and smooth dish. So I blitz the bread into a fine breadcrumb consistency and set that aside while I melt 1 tablespoon of vegan butter, or you could use 1 tablespoon of oil, in my skillet over medium heat. We will use this to toast the breadcrumbs eventually, but first we want to flavor it. So I add in 1 pressed garlic clove, as well as a good pinch of chili flakes. But you could really go wild with flavors here. It's great with fresh or dried herbs or any other kind of pepper varieties that you enjoy. Simply mix this through the melted butter or oil for a minute or so, or until it's really fragrant, and then add in the breadcrumbs. Now you'll want to coat them in this flavored butter or oil and toast them until they're nicely golden. This will take a few minutes. You'll want to move them around a lot, and they should be crunchy when they're finished. Also, don't forget to season with salt definitely, and black pepper if you wish. This is meant to be a savory, salty topping. Then set it aside and get your pasta on before starting on the sauce. I'm using linguine here, but you could also use spaghetti or any other pasta shape you like, really. Once the sunflower seeds have been soaking for their 15 minutes, simply transfer them into a sieve and drain and rinse them under cold water. Once you're through with the rinse, try to get as much water away from the seeds as possible, and then transfer them into the jug of a high-speed blender. To that same jug, you'll want to add 3 of these roasted peppers in a jar. It's okay if a little bit of the brining liquid comes along with the pepper. Then also add in 1.5 tablespoons of nutritional yeast, as well as 1.5 teaspoons of vegetable stock powder, or you could use 1 vegetable stock cube. I also go in with 1 teaspoon of onion powder and 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder. And to add a little extra touch of creaminess and to get it to blend nicely, I add in 1/3 of a cup of unsweetened soy milk. If you find that the sauce isn't blending quite well on 1/3 of a cup, then you can up this amount to 1/2 a cup. What you want to achieve is a slightly thicker, creamy sauce. Once you've drained your pasta, add that back into the pan and pour the sauce over it. Make sure to also reserve a little bit of pasta water so that you can thin out the sauce if you need to. To do this, simply add the starchy water 1 tablespoon or 2 at a time and mix it through the pasta and the sauce. Also, I forgot to say to keep the heat on here, because obviously you'll want to heat the sauce up along with the pasta. So make sure not to cook it more than al dente to begin with, because then you might end up with slightly overcooked pasta in the end. This dish is best served immediately so that the sauce stays nice and loose and creamy. So just dish it up straight out the pan and serve it with some of those crispy breadcrumbs. You could also top it with some extra chili flakes if you like heat. So this really is a great 20-minute meal to throw together when you don't have much time or many fresh ingredients on hand, as it utilizes basically only pantry items. I also love using something like stale bread in my budget-friendly recipes, as wasting food is the most costly thing we can do in the kitchen, really. Also, I want to mention that if you would like a more protein-rich element to add to this pasta, then pan-fried vegan chicken-style pieces or smoked tofu go great, but they are maybe not the most budget-friendly. What we like to do is fill our freezer with these types of items though whenever there's a sale. And if you have room in your budget to buy ahead and keep for later in this way, then it can be a fantastic way to save long term if you know you enjoy a pricier item and find it on sale once in a while. With that said, I'll bid you goodbye for this time. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this last video of my budget meals series, and please let me know in the comments what videos you'd like to see this summer, as we are planning for them as we speak. So see you in the next one. Take care.